Now, scores of passengers were left stranded when the low-cost airline One Time announced on Friday that it had applied for liquidation and stopped all operations. It had about 320 million rand in short-term debt and had been in negotiations with creditors since March. Well, to take a look at the outlook for the struggling domestic airlines, I'm joined in the studio by Chris Zweigenthal. He's the CEO of Airlines Association of Southern Africa. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, this is not good news, for the industry. We know that this is now the 10th of the 11th independent private airlines launched in South Africa since the deregulation in the 90s that have now gone bust. What does this mean? Is it simply not financially viable to be in this business when you're not state subsidized?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a very tough business to be involved in, and at this moment in time, we're in a very, very tough environment, operating environment. We have a situation where the domestic industry is not growing at this moment in time. You have the global economic slowdown, and you have a situation in South Africa where the domestic market has not grown. It's actually in a decline at the moment, about 1.6% year on year. So effectively, all the airlines at the moment are fighting for the same business, and there's not actually a growth. And obviously, I think for airlines to grow it as any other business, you need growth to be able to try and secure some sort of benefit and sustainable into the future.
So, of course, very negative domestic economic data coupled with a shrinking global market. Of course, one can't ignore the fact that SAA, the national carrier, is also struggling. And of course, it has the assistance of the South African government. It is going to get a 5 billion rand bailout. And when I spoke with the CEO of Comair last time, he was very concerned that this would give SAA an unfair advantage, particularly in the domestic market, and found that, they had very serious concerns. Do you share the concerns from Comair?
Well, I think that the guarantee that has been given to SAA is probably was required by SA, otherwise it probably would have had to look at probably exiting the market as well. So I think that's a big issue. And in your previous interview, you were talking about a strategic asset. I don't think the airline industry in South Africa, or let alone the economy of South Africa, can do with all these airlines going out of business. So effectively, the bailout effectively would help them come in. But at the same time, I really believe, even taking the previous management of SA, that they had it in their interest to ensure that they run these airlines on a commercial basis. So to effectively drop all these fares and try and do predatory pricing, I don't think is in the long-term interests of those airlines either. I think that's one of the problems we see in South Africa at the moment. The public has got so used to these low fares that one of the reasons they're not flying is they're waiting for these big deals to come out onto the internet and to actually get these deals, and they're not prepared to pay a higher fares. And that's one of the problems I think we've got at this moment in time. We've just got this barrier to increasing pricing. And at the moment, the airlines cannot sustain.
Go any lower.
They can't go any lower, and they can't pay their bills based on the current levels of fares.
So what is the outlook going forward? I mean, what can airlines that are operating in such very tough conditions actually do to keep not just staying afloat, but in fact turn a profit?
Well, I think a lot of them have looked very closely at their cost base and obviously looked for cost efficiencies that they can get. There are obviously some operating costs which are not really within their control, such as the fuel price and some of the infrastructure service provider charges. The question is really to look at the markets that they're in, to obviously determine the markets that they can best operate into, and where they can actually probably derive the best yield. I think in the low-cost market, one of the difficulties that they do have is they're not business travelers. So the higher yield business market is not available in terms of paying for business fares into the low-cost market. So it's really a question of looking at the whole structure of the market. It's, for me, an important situation for us to get almost a talk shop together with government, the shareholders of the state-owned enterprises, but with the rest of industry, including the private airlines, everybody included, together with stakeholders, the infrastructure service providers, to really ensure that everybody understands what's going on in this business. Because at the moment, I really firmly believe that we are not aligned as an industry. We have got policy, but I don't necessarily believe that all, say, government stakeholders understand exactly the predicament that the airlines are actually finding themselves in and operating in the current environment.